Today on Joe's Geek Show, we're going to be looking at Zack Snyder's Justice League. Non-spoiler. What's going on and welcome to Joe's Geek Show, the video series where we talk comics, and it has finally happened after so long a wait. We finally have Zack Snyder's Justice League, because really, it was a long road to get here. Also, as a side note, I do want to clarify that I was not one of the people vying for this movie. I didn't ask for it, I didn't want it, but, you know, I'm gonna watch it anyway. I mean, it's already been 4 years since the release of the first iteration of Justice League back in 2017. And that movie was... it was something. Like, it wasn't the worst superhero movie I had ever seen, but at the same time, when you saw it directed by Zack Snyder and you watched the movie, something definitely didn't feel right. Besides Henry Cavill's CGI mouth to cover up that big huge mustache, I mean, the tone of the movie was different, the color palette was different. Heck, Junkie XL wasn't even doing the music. He got replaced by Danny Elfman. It became quite obvious that this wasn't exactly the movie that we've been treated to with the trailers and in, interviews with like Zack Snyder and everybody. It was definitely clear that this wasn't the movie that we were initially promised when we watched the trailers. Because the vast majority of the trailers that we got, those scenes had either been heavily altered or just cut altogether. And of course, a lot of that had to do with the fact that Zack Snyder unfortunately had to step away from the Justice League project in order to deal with a family tragedy. Enter Joss Whedon, director of the first two Avengers movies. Because, those two styles aren't going to clash at all. Okay, let's be honest, those two styles did clash very heavily because in terms of Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon, I mean, you couldn't have more polar opposite directors. And I get it, Joss was brought in to finish the movie, but Warner Brothers had also asked him to alter the film. It became lighter, more colorful, kind of like a Marvel movie. And unfortunately, we were treated to a mishmash Frankenstein of a movie. So almost immediately, people took to the website after watching Justice League, and we saw hashtag release the Snyder Cut. And over the next few years, this would be trending everywhere. Zack Snyder would be dropping images and things from parts of the movie that had been cut or concept art that was never fully realized. People were going to Comic-Cons with large hashtag release the Snyder Cut banners, and then it happened. The launch of HBO Max, a brand new streaming service that would host a slew of Warner Brothers movies and TV shows. They needed a draw. They needed something to get people's attention. So that was it. They announced that they were going to hashtag release the Snyder Cut on HBO Max. And what can I say about this movie except it is really long. 4 hours to be exact. So when you go into this movie, be sure to either clear your calendar or get ready to take breaks because it is a trek. And in typical Zack Snyder fashion, if he's releasing a really long movie, it's because he is throwing a lot of information at the screen. From the time the movie starts to the time it stops, I mean, it's just scene, cut, cut, cut. I mean, there was one point in the movie where I was just like, good lord, I gotta be about an hour in, and I hit the pause button, and I was only 26 minutes into the movie. Because as it stands, this movie's broken down into 5 parts. Well, 6 if you include the epilogue. Which to a degree almost makes it feel like TV episodes mashed together. Because each part has its own subheading, like it'll say, part 1, this, part 2, this, and it'll go on and on and on. Some of the biggest factors, of course, are the character introductions. Now, of course, Superman has had his own movie by this point. Wonder Woman had her movie. Batman got introduced in Batman v Superman. So they still needed to set up Aquaman, Cyborg, and The Flash. And set them up they did, as each character got a really large amount of screen time. And I will say, with a longer runtime, the exclusion of all of the Whedon footage, it is a more concise movie. Which actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. But the biggest question is it a different movie? And the short answer is, no. It really is a 4-hour extended edition of the film that we did get in 2017. It's still Steppenwolf going after the mother boxes while Batman and Wonder Woman are trying to put the league together. But like I said, With all the Snyder stuff going back in, there are improvements. One of those is Steppenwolf's design. Because at the end of BVS, we pretty much saw what Steppenwolf was going to look like, and then in the 2017 Justice League movie, it didn't look like that. He was made a lot more human in appearance, and overall just came across as less menacing. But in this one, it's back to his monster form, and I dug it. And of course, the action sequences in this version are a lot better. Because if there's two things I can usually give to Zack Snyder is that, one, his movies look fantastic. He is a great visual director. Personally, I think he would make a much better cinematographer. And two, his action sequences are generally on point. I would be lying if I didn't say that I enjoyed the vast majority of action scenes that took place within this movie. They feel bigger, a little more epic, a lot more blood at times. Which all, of course, leads to the ending battle sequence between the Justice League and Steppenwolf, which for me was a lot more satisfying this time around. Because that's really one thing that I was really doing with this movie, was in my head doing a lot of compare and contrast between the 2017 movie and this film. Because one of the things that I noticed while watching this movie, particularly in the final fight sequence, is that there were certain scenes in the 2017 movie that I could have sworn were actual Whedon shots, but it turns out that they were Zack Snyder shots, where they just recolored some things, or CGI replaced a few faces to get them to get a different expression. So in a way, they weren't just replacing Zack Snyder's work from the 2017 movie, they were also writing over it. So it was interesting to see those sequences again as originally intended. As far as other things that I could say that I typically liked about the movie, I love the fact that there was more Jeremy Irons' Alfred in it. Jeremy Irons is probably my favorite interpretation of Alfred so far because, you know, he's got all of his Alfred mannerisms and stuff like that, but he's also a lot more snarky. He'll talk back more to Bruce, so I'm really glad that we got more of him. But I will say, I'm still not really feeling Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. Now, although I do like his Flash costume, Ezra Miller's take on Barry Allen is still not quite what I'd call Barry Allen. Because even since the 2017 movie, I have wondered oftentimes if the whole Barry Allen feeling more like Bart Allen or an interpretation of Wally West, like say from the Justice League animated series, was more so on Joss Whedon trying to make the character obviously the comedic relief of the film. With the general answer being, no, that's just how the character is. Because Barry Allen, of course, being a crime lab CSI, you know, he's all about, like, the math and the facts and the science. He's not really all that snarky or a person who's, like, constantly throwing jokes around. Or really just being that kid in the candy store. Because Ezra Miller, yeah, he's the kid in the candy store. He is Bart Allen for the most part. And I am kind of hoping that by the time they come around to his movie, well, should that ever happen, that they do sort of reel him in a bit. Because when we do get the scenes between him and his dad and stuff, and he has time to just kind of slow down and let things sink in, he's not terrible. And then when it comes to some of the other side characters, like Lois Lane, Martha Kent, they're just kind of there still. Roles didn't change too much, they just occasionally walk into a scene, have some dialogue, and walk off a scene. And on and on and on it goes till the plot needs them. But I will say, there is a scene between Martha and Lois that, once it got done, let's just say, something happens immediately after that makes me go, ah, that's something. And then also immediately makes me think back to, you know, other movies and just has me start asking a whole bunch of questions. But now, let's talk about one of our other big bads of this movie, Darkseid. That's right, Darkseid finally made it into the movie. And he was cool. We had a great look to him. He was menacing. He was imposing. I mean, it's no secret because we saw it in the trailers, so this isn't a spoiler, with actually getting to see Darkseid trying to conquer Earth the first time, where the Amazonians and the Atlanteans and Man, and they all team up, like the gods and everything, a Green Lantern. And there's one big, huge battle, well, sort of the same battle that we saw in the 2017 Justice League movie, except they just took out Darkseid and just put Steppenwolf in there instead. And since it was another action sequence, I'm not gonna lie, it was a cool scene. But what about the music? Ah, yes, that's right. I did note that Danny Elfman had initially replaced Junkie XL in the 2017 movie, so Zack Snyder saw fit to get rid of the Danny Elfman score and bring Junkie XL's score back. And I will say, it's good. It's a good score. The music really does help drive the movie. The one thing I will say, there is this thing that goes on with the Amazons every time they either do something or we come to the Amazons. There's this really weird hymn that plays that it gets annoying after a while. Okay, I take it back. It gets annoying really fast because it comes up a lot. I would say right about after the third or fourth time, I really started to get sick of it. And then every time it proceeded to come up afterwards, it just made me roll my eyes. And I really wish they reeled back on this a little bit more, maybe replace it with some other kind of music. Because to a degree, it does come off a little pretentious. If it didn't feel even a little pretentious, it wouldn't be his movie. So at the end of the day, I did enjoy it more than the previous movie. I still don't really think it's a masterpiece or anything like that. It's better than BVS, way better than Wonder Woman 1984. I think the standard moviegoer is going to enjoy it enough. I think that the Snyder fans are going to absolutely love it. But I do get worried a little bit because within its runtime, it also serves to, set up those future superhero movies and stuff, which, of course, movies like Aquaman go off of the 2017 movie more than it would this one. And then again, Wonder Woman 1984, they already kind of said that they're trying to stand outside of Snyder's DCEU. Because this is a movie that also promises a sequel, and we all gotta be honest, we don't know if that's ever gonna happen. And that completes my non-spoiler thoughts, and I'm going to ask, what did you think of Zack Snyder's Justice League if you've seen it? Did you like it? Did you not? Please tell me your thoughts in the comment section below, and since this is a non-spoiler video, I ask that you keep the comments also non-spoiler, unless you're watching this video like, days and days and days and days and days and days after the release of the film, in which case, go nuts. And if you like this video, I'd love it if you'd smash that like button, share it with some friends, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and ring that notification bell for more comic book content. And if you're wondering what to watch next, consider one of these two videos. Alright, take care, have a great day, and as always, stay geeky.